My name is Kendra, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today for a painting activity. So in a couple of minutes here, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we start, I just want to let you know whether you're a beginner and this is your first time, or maybe even if you've done other paintings before, this is certainly going to be an activity that everyone can take a part in, and I'm going to guide you through the steps as we move forward. So let's go ahead and make sure we have everything that we need before we start. If there's a helper or an instructor in the room, he or she is going to help you to get all the materials that you need. So the first thing you're going to need are 2 paintbrushes. You're going to need one that's a little larger. This is a pretty good size for me, and actually my canvas is going to be a little bigger just so you can see. So I might even use this one, but you can go a little smaller. And then you'll need a second paintbrush that's a little smaller than the first one, okay? So once we get to the part where we have to put a few details in, a smaller brush is probably going to help you to get into those spaces. We're going to use 4 different colors today, but you'll be able to blend a couple of them to create some other colors. You should have a phthalo blue, an aqua green, a light pink, and a light yellow color. Now we're working with acrylics today, and acrylics are really a lot of fun to work with, but they dry really fast. So once we get started, I'm going to use one color at a time. So if you want to do the same, that'll be perfectly fine. That way we can just work with each color as we need it, and we won't have to worry about our paint getting tacky and starting to dry on us. You'll need some water. You should have a little bit of water in a cup there. I've got mine in a little glass jar. And then we're going to use a paper styrofoam plate. And this just comes really in handy for scooping your colors out with your paintbrush and also for mixing. Alright, so those are all of the materials that you should need. You also have your pre-sketched canvas board in front of you, and that's what we're going to be painting on today. I'm going to use one that's a little bit larger just so that you can see me better. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, we're going to complete this activity in 4 main steps. Alright, I'm going to work through from steps 1 to 4 right along with you, and you can follow along with me. After we finish the first 4 steps, we're going to add in some small details. So you can add in those details if you like once we get to the end, but if you feel like your painting is finished once we complete step 4, that's okay too. So the first color we're going to use is this bright aqua green. So I want you to make sure you have a little on your plate, and again, if there is a leader or a helper in the room, they can make sure that you have this color on your plate first, and just take the time that you need to get that done. And you can always hit pause on me while you're getting settled on your end, and whenever you're ready, we'll pick back up. So step 1, we're going to start filling in the background. We're going to fill in this top area around our puzzle piece first. We're going to use that larger brush that you picked out. Remember, I told you you would need 2. So for this top space, you're going to need your larger brush, and that's going to help you to fill in the background a little quicker. Now, if you want, as we start painting, if it's easier for you, you can take your smaller brush and kind of trace around the edges there. Hey, actually, I think that's a pretty good idea. So why don't we switch to our smaller brush. And then you're going to go ahead and pick up some of that aqua green. And I'm just tracing above the puzzle piece. And that's going to help me to stay in the line. That's all I'm doing. I'm just tracing around the outside first. Kind of like when you're filling in a coloring book page. I used to like to go and trace the outline of the picture first before I colored it in, just to help me stay within the lines. Almost done. How are we doing on your end? Alright, so that makes it a little easier for me, I know, to stay in that area up top. I'm just going to rinse off my paintbrush there before I switch from my small brush to my larger brush. And now I'm going to go in with my larger brush, and I'm just going to start filling in that top area. You may like to use one stroke in the same direction all the way across, or maybe you like to go in different directions. Sometimes the way you use your paintbrush to stroke can determine how your finished product looks. So sometimes I like to use my paintbrush and just try to go in one direction. Just like the look of that. But then other times I like to go in two different directions. But for right now, I'm just kind of using my paintbrush to make strokes from that outline we made all the way to the edges of the canvas. It's a really nice color. That aqua color is one of my favorite colors. It's just really peaceful color. Alright, so just take your time and fill in that top area with your aqua. If you need to dip your paintbrush in a little bit of water and then go back with your paint, that kind of helps you to stretch your paint out a little better on the canvas. Then you don't have to use so much paint. Sometimes when I use a lot of paint at once, it starts to build up on the canvas, and I don't really like that. But if you dip your paintbrush in just a little bit of water, you don't want to soak it, but if you dip it in just a little bit of water, you can apply your color to the canvas nice and smoothly. Just making nice smooth movements with my brush. There we go. And if you're almost finished with that top piece, you can go right ahead and fill in the rest of your area on the top. Remember, this is step 1. So if you're further along than me, that's okay. You may want to go back over that area with a second coat of paint if it's not as dark as you want it to be. Bit of water there. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Pretty happy with that top part. So that takes care of step 1. And as it dries, you can kind of see how light or how dark it is. So if you want later on, you can go back and add in a second layer, and that's just going to darken up the area a little more and give you a nice smooth application of color. Okay, but for now we're going to move to step 2. So for step 2, we're going to get ready to fill in the bottom part of the background. So for that, you're going to need the yellow. So you're going to want to have just a little bit of yellow and add that to your plate in a separate spot. Now for the color we're going to use on the bottom, we're going to create what I like to call a Ninja Turtle green. It's a really nice bright color green, but it's kind of relaxing too, at least it is to me. You will still need some of that aqua color that we used first. So if you have some aqua left on your plate, we're going to use that. But if you don't, you can raise your hand, or you can get some more of that aqua paint, and you're going to add a little bit more to your plate. And what we're looking for here are like equal amounts, all right? So we want the same amount of yellow and the same amount of aqua green, and then we're going to mix them together. I'm going to go ahead and mix mine. Okay, so you can use your paintbrush, the one you were just using if you like, and we're just going to mix together that yellow color with that aqua color. And I'm just going to stir it up together on my plate. Sorry, I know I have some other colors on my plate, but I kind of paint a lot and I don't like to use a brand new plate unless I really have to. Okay, so I'm just mixing up that aqua and that yellow. And you should start to see your Ninja Turtle green or your sea green coming alive. Kind of looks like a ninja green to me, but you might want to call it something different. Okay, and once you have this color mix, this is a color we're going to use to start filling in the bottom half of the background. This is going to be step 2. Alright, I think that looks good. Okay, so the color should look something like that. Okay, so now that we have our ninja green all mixed up, we're going to repeat the same thing that we did for step 1, but I'm going to go and I'm going to outline this puzzle piece in the bottom part, and then I'm going to start to fill it in with that green color that we just mixed. Just like that. Just taking my time to get the outline. It's going to make it easier for me once we get ready to fill in that color. I think that's good enough for me. So now I'm just going to go back in with that larger brush, and I'm going to start to fill in my background just like we did in step 1. Load my brush with that paint. Just going to start pulling with my paintbrush in one direction. I'm just taking my time with the strokes. You don't have to be in a rush. Painting can be really relaxing and something I really like to do for quiet time. Just going to come in there with my paintbrush and fill in this little area that I missed, the small brush. And we're just going to go ahead and fill in the rest of that background in the bottom half of your canvas. Using those nice long strokes again. remember, if you finish step 2 early and you want to go back to step 1 and add a second layer on your aqua, use the same color, you can. Sometimes if we go back and do a second layer, as I said before, you can get more solid coverage on your canvas. When we add water to acrylic paint, it thins it out a little bit, so we get something that's more of a wash as opposed to that solid color we might want. So it's perfectly fine if you want to go back to step 1 and add a second layer of paint using that aqua color that we started with. Filling in this last little area, and once we're done, we're just about done with that bottom part. We're going to move ahead to step 3. So if you want to get ready, we're going to need the yellow for this step. So you want to get some yellow on your plate. We're going to start working on filling in that puzzle piece. I may come back to my step 2 a little later and add in a second coat of that green. It's a little transparent because of the water I added to it. Alright, so you got your yellow on your plate. I'm going to take a second and get mine. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of our yellow. And once you have that yellow, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start filling in this whole puzzle piece. That'll be step 3. Go ahead and get your large brush. And we're just going to take our time. We're going to start filling in that puzzle piece. Remember, if you like, you can use your smaller brush for the curves and the edges. That might help you to get into some of those smaller spaces if your large brush is too wide. So feel free to go back and forth between the 2 brush sizes to use whatever is going to make you comfortable. As for me, I'm filling in my larger spots, and then I'll probably go back afterwards too with my smaller brush and try to get some of those areas that I missed. Looking good so far. I'm sure yours is looking great. Just take your time and fill in that yellow. It's a nice bright color. And it covers the canvas pretty well too. So yellow is not usually a color we have to go back over with more than one layer. Does a pretty good job of covering all of the canvas during the first application. Okay, I'm about halfway done with the yellow. How are we doing on your end? So in just a second here, I'm going to start adding in some of that light pink color. So if you are coming close to finishing with the yellow, now is a good time to make sure you have a little bit of that pink color on your paper plate. We're going to start adding that in just a minute or two. All right. Almost there. Remember I told you I was going to go back with my little brush and fill in some of those corners I missed. So if you need to do that on yours with the yellow, you can too. But if not, that's great. Okay, do you have your light pink, your peach color on your plate? I'm getting ready to use a little bit of that next. Still on step 3. Okay, so I've gone back in and I've got all my little edges. So now I'm going to add a little bit of this light pink color. Yours may even look a little peach. Pink, peach, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to put this on a different spot. And if you've run out of yellow, you're going to want to add just a little more of the yellow too. Don't add it on top of your pink, just put it where the yellow was before. That'll be fine. And now I'm going to take my pink, a little bit of my pink, my peach color I have here, And I'm just going to start adding a little of it onto my puzzle piece on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to come in like this. Actually, that's a little too much color for me, so I'm going to wipe a little of that off on the plate. And I'm just going to start adding it into the yellow. Now, you see the yellow is still a little wet, so as I start adding it, I'm going to start getting something that looks a little like a darker peach color. And I'm just really doing this on the left side. Just kind of blending this on the left. And then as I add this on the left side, I'm going to come back in and mix in a little bit of yellow too. So the yellow and that light pink color are going to start blending together, and that is okay. So I'm just kind of mixing wet paint into wet paint to create this little peach color here. See that? I'm just going to do the same thing on the whole left side, taking that pink, just kind of filling in my left side of my puzzle piece. I'm just wrapping around the outside, just creating a little bit of a shadow there. Need a little bit of water. It's a little dry on me, and I'm dabbing that back into the yellow. Creating a little bit of a shadow on the left side. So it's just like what we were doing before with the yellow, except now we're going back over it with the pink and we're blending it into the yellow to create a third color. I'm just going into this corner just a little bit with that peachy color. Kind of like a dark blush almost. It's a nice color. I like that color. Just filling in my strokes here. Wet the tip of my brush just a little bit, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that pink. I'm going to come down here on the bottom. And once again, just kind of filling in the bottom part. So essentially, I'm just going on top of the yellow with the pink. And I'm creating a peach color. Now if it gets a little sticky, you can just add a little water. We're just working wet into wet. That's what we call that. When we're blending wet paint on our canvas with fresh paint, we're not waiting for it to dry, we're just blending it. It's called wet into wet. all the way across on that left side. You can see me over here. Okay. So I'm just going to keep blending a little bit of that into the yellow. Dries pretty fast. And again, we're just kind of creating a little bit of a shadow. Right. Clean off my brush, and I'm just going to get ready to go in with a little more yellow to finish out that third step. I'm just going to come in with my yellow. I'm just going to blend out the edges back into the puzzle piece. All I'm doing is I'm coming back in with that yellow. I'm just smoothing out that shadow a little bit by filling the right side back in with a little bit more yellow. Now yours doesn't have to look just like mine. That's the fun thing about painting. Everyone has a different process, so our finished products may look similar and different at the same time. That's a good thing. Just kind of sweeping that right side. Let my paintbrush kind of pick up some of that pink. Just want to make sure I have more yellow on the right side and on the left side. So now we're finished with step 3. Just kind of smoothing out some of my paintbrush strokes there. All right, so we're going to move on to the 4th and final step. And remember, I said after this 4th step, I'll show you how to add a little bit of shadow in the background if you like, but if you don't want to add the shadow after the 4th step, you will be all done. So for the 4th step, I know you've probably been wondering, when are we going to use the phthalo blue? So we're going to use the phthalo blue for the 4th step to add a little bit of an outline on our puzzle piece. So you won't need a lot of phthalo blue for this step. Oh, this tube is so big. Just going to put a little bit in a clean space where there isn't any paint already, because I don't want to mix any other colors in my phthalo blue. And I'm going to start adding a little bit of an outline on certain edges of the puzzle piece, and this will just make it pop out a little bit. I'm going to use my smaller brush for this because it is a little bit of detail work, so you can use your smaller brush too. Make sure it's clean. And you just want to take your time . And I'm going to start adding a line on the top left side of my piece. I'll be careful because got a little paint on my hand. That yellow is still pretty wet. You can probably see there where I smudged mine just a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm going to try not to touch the yellow. And I'm just adding blue line on the top left side there. Can you see where I am? And it's going to come on top of this part. Now you can probably see a little bit better where I am. So your line isn't too thick. And all I'm doing is following along here. Just following the curve on that left side. Okay. So I hope you're enjoying this so far. All right. So now that we're finished that top left part, we're going to come and we're going to add the outline on this round hollow part here on the left. So we're going to do the same thing, just in a different space. Again, I'm just taking my time, following that curve. I like to do this really slow. And you can probably see why it's good to use a smaller paintbrush for this part. Phthalo blue is really pretty. Still using the blue. I was just picking up a little green there by accident, so I went ahead and washed my brush off. It's okay if your lines aren't perfectly round. There's really no such thing as perfect, but we'll do our best to just come in the general closeness of that curve. Okay. All right, so that's good for that part. Now we're going to come and we're going to get this side piece here. I'm going to move my stool back just in case I'm in your way. All I'm doing is I'm wrapping around that left side here. Okay, and then once you finish with that left side, we're going to come along the bottom here. We're going to get this bottom piece right down here. Just using my paintbrush to follow that curve. A little bit of water, not too much. Okay. All right. Okay, and the last part we're going to add a little bit of an outline to is going to be this left side here and this right side here on this little round part down here. Okay, see, so I've just got an outline, a little bit of an outline on the right, the left bottom part of this piece here. I'm going to do the same thing right here. It's like a little S kind of stroke. All right, so that completes step 4. You can see that blue just added a little bit of detail there to make your puzzle piece look like it's popping out just a little bit. Fix that spot there. So that really completes step 4. Now, I told you if you wanted, I was going to show you how to add just a little bit of shadow in your background. So this won't take really long. If you want to stop here and you feel like, well, mine is done, that's fine. But if you want to see how you can add just a little more shadow in the background, I'm going to show you how to do that. And then once we've done that, you will be all finished. So in order to add a little bit of shadow in the background, we're going to use that phthalo blue again. So if you still have some of that on your plate, wonderful, you're all set. If you need a little more, go ahead and take a minute and get a little more. And you're also going to need a little bit of that aqua color we used in the beginning. You won't need a lot because we're not going to repaint the whole thing. We're just going to add a little bit of shadow here. So for this, I'm going to use my large brush. I'm going to clean it because it looks like I still have a little bit of yellow on there. I don't want that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this phthalo blue on my paintbrush, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to follow along this line here. It's the line that separates my aqua from my Ninja Turtle green. I'm just going to go in with my paintbrush, and I'm just adding that phthalo blue to that line. A nice stroke, nice dark stroke. Okay, now I'm not going to leave it that way. I know you may be thinking, are we going to leave it that way? We're not going to leave it that way. So we're going to do that wet into wet again. And I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to go and I'm going to take some of that aqua color that I had. And we're going to go right next to it and blend it with my stroke. So I'm just creating a blend there with the color. Okay, you see how that's blending? Now I am going to clean my brush. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up some of the aqua. I'm just going to keep blending it so that the point where the aqua is fades a little bit into where that blue color is. That's going to create a little bit of shadow for me there. Okay, I'm just applying that aqua back on top. So I'm going from aqua only, and as I come this way, it's getting a little bit darker. And that creates the illusion that we have a little bit of a shadow there. Just using the plain aqua again. Just working that aqua into that phthalo blue. Okay. All right, and that's how you blend and create a little bit of shadow there. So we're just going to add a little bit of shadow in a few other places. I'm going to add a little bit in this corner here. And I'm going to add a little bit on this side. So again, I'm going to go in with the phthalo blue first. And if you want, you can use your small paintbrush for this because your canvas may be a little bit smaller. And I'm just adding that blue into this space here. And I'm pulling it out. And I'm going to clean that phthalo blue off my paintbrush, and I'm going to go pick up that aqua blue, working wet into wet, and I'm just going to blend. Now that phthalo blue is really strong, as you see. So It's important to only use a little bit because it will overpower your aqua really fast if you don't notice that already. So I'm just going in with that aqua blue and I'm blending it with that phthalo. I'm just pulling it out. And I'm just keeping the aqua in the background. So the spots where the dark blue, where the phthalo blue is, are just in the corners. But if you have a little bit of phthalo blue in your background, you can wait for it to dry and go back over it with the aqua, or if you like the way it looks, you can leave it there. I just want the aqua in my background with the phthalo blue creating the shadow. So I'm going over any phthalo blue other than the shadow with the aqua color. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go over to this side and I'm just going to do the same thing I did here on this line that separates the aqua from the green. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that phthalo blue and I'm going to do one stroke all the way across. Right? I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to pick up some more of that aqua and I'm just going to start blending. And that's all I'm doing. Left to right with that brush. All right. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Just wanted to put a little more aqua on that side. And that's it. So that completes our painting activity. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I really had a lot of fun painting with you today. And I hope you'll take some time and maybe do another painting activity sometime in the future. Have a great day. Bye-bye.